I was with Rabbi Moskowitz at the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, which is the union that Randy is the president of, the national union of it's teachers, nurses, and public employees. And Randy did a fantastic session with 5 or 4 panelists, and we can get the video for the whole session, all scholars of authoritarianism. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, Eric Holder, who was the Attorney General, Danielle Allen, who's a professor of history at Harvard and does a lot about authoritarianism, and Erica Chenoweth, who also teaches at Harvard. And Erica Chenoweth is the one who has, along with Maria Stephan, studied social movements of the 20th century in great detail. And she's the one who has said in one of their books that there is no social movement of the 20th century, nonviolent social movement, that wasn't successful when it hit 3.5%. That measurement has been really abused, and we're trying hard in the way that we discuss it to be careful. It's not a prescription, and it doesn't mean that we have to reach 3.5% once and that's enough. It's a much more subtle analysis of the history. So I have a 1.5 minute version, taping I did of her talking just about that 3.5%. And then I have the whole video of the panel, which I recommend listening to if you can. And anything that Erica Chenoweth writes, and Ruth Ben-Ghiat, and all of this group, these are the people who understand authoritarianism and what has defeated it, and what we don't know and what we do know. And it's a very complicated formula, but there are a lot of things we know and we don't know. One that we know for sure: people giving up or giving in never works, for sure. Even though that sounds obvious to say, there is no case in which people disappearing from creating a resistance movement helps change the situation. It's also true that no tyrant lasts forever, no matter what. And that the question is how quickly and in what manner we, the people, will have an impact. So let's listen to just this 1.5 minutes, and then we'll take feedback, or anybody want to say something. Do you have that, Sharon, to play?
For mobilizing at least 3.5% of the population that would keep those. Now, what I want to also, that's an exciting statistic because it suggests that those who are activated don't need to constitute the majority. They can influence easily and gain sympathy among the majority by showing their commitment and engaging in many different creative nonviolent actions. But I also want to caution against the overuse of that number as like a target for a few reasons. The first is that it's a historical observation, but it is not a prediction. It's not a prescription or a guarantee. And that since our book was published and I first was able to identify that number, there have been cases around the world where people have actually succeeded in mobilizing that level and the movement still failed. And so I think the lesson to learn is similar in that when mass movements organize sufficient numbers, they are able to shift the loyalties of just enough people in order to influence an outcome. That is still true. It is still the sort of theory of change here. The main thing to think about is with every action that we take, how are we mobilizing people who otherwise wouldn't necessarily be with us? So organizing others into a movement to create that threshold or kind of tipping point that would allow us to express our power and impact.
Excellent.
So that piece speaks to what the Beacon does, which is there is no movement that will be successful that does not bring in people who are not already involved. Like, that's the key thing, is to spread to people who are not the likely participants, to get more people who are not already the hardcore activists or resistors involved. And that's why it's so important what we do by inviting people to join us who are regular people like us. But I just want you to understand what she's saying is that there's no question that growth is essential, and bringing in people who are not already involved. And the beacon, I talked to her about the beacon, and she will come when we figure it out to a Monday session. But yeah, there are many great people out there now. Erica and Maria Stefan's particular work is that they study resistance movements. They study the movements that have toppled authoritarians in the past. And let us just say, sometimes it's very difficult for all different reasons. Look at how long Putin has been in power. Look how long Netanyahu's been in power. Look what's happening with Modi in India. These things don't just shift quickly, and we have to be prepared for the long, hard work, which is exactly what's in the DNA of the beacon. So Erica and Maria have written several books, and they also emphasize that nonviolence is essential to the success of resistance movements all over the world. That when movements shift into violence, it's very easy for an authoritarian state to crush it. That's in fact what they want. A violent response by the resistors is easy for them to respond to. Much more difficult for resistance movements which remain nonviolent. It doesn't mean there won't be violence, as we've seen here. Nonviolent people are killed all the time in movements of resistance. But it means the likelihood of really being able to turn that tide is essential.